How will the National Association of Realtors settlement affect real estate agent commissions?
And I think we should go over what it is,
Yeah, let's
what the
do it.
settlement is. NAR, and just to put it in layman terms, because I deal with Marines and it's what I'm good at. So I have to dummy down everything when it comes down to it. But uh, basically, sellers are no longer obligated to pay for buyer agents. So when I charge a seller, I charge them a 6% fee, sometimes 7% fee. A portion of that goes to the buyer agent, and a portion of that goes to Romeo Echo. Me putting a portion going to the buyer agents is gone. The seller can pay for a buyer agent if they want to offer consideration, any kind of contribution, commissions. They can do it, but they are not. It's not in my split anymore. It is a separate thing. It's a separate line item that would go into the transaction.
Yeah, I
Now,
think
go ahead.
just to talk on that part real quick, just for maybe context as well, and simplifying some things, because a lot of people don't even realize that the commissions in terms of like the way it breaks down. And I'm forgetting his name. The real was it? You see, the president CEO talked about this on his live he did the other
Oh,
day.
Sharon.
Sharon, how he said the commissions go from seller to listing agent, and then listing agent to buyer's agent.
Yes.
So what you just said right now was that's no longer a thing. It has to go from seller to buyer's agent, not from seller to listing agent to buyer's agent. It's not. It's got to be a separate, like you mentioned, a separate line item. A lot of people don't even know that. They don't even realize what does that even mean. It sounds like it's the same thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sorry, didn't mean to
No,
interrupt
you're
you on
good.
that.
So I do have a video that's going to be like posted up in about a week or so, going
Shameless
over
plug.
this. Shameless plug. And yeah, so the commissions usually are split between the agents, and now a seller can pay for a buyer agent, but they are no longer obligated to, or the listing agent is no longer obligated to do that split anymore. And tell me I don't have to pay for something. Am I going to pay for it? Probably not. Like, give me the option not to pay for it, and I'll turn your tip screen right back over to you.
Right.
Uh, so, so, um, so yeah, like, uh, what I think this is going to happen, what's going to happen is it's going to force buyers to have to pay for their own agents to pay for their representation, which technically they do, and just it's just a trickle down effect of it. I don't think that prices will be necessarily uh, hit by this too much, because now sellers have more equity to play with. So a buyer is now going to have to pay for their representation, either out of pocket or through the loan. The reason why we're bringing it up here is because VA buyers, literally cannot pay for buyer agency. They cannot compensate me directly. I have to be paid for by the seller. So if a seller does not offer any kind of compensation, it becomes a situation where I can't represent you, or I'm going to be doing it for free. And when it comes down to it, like, a lot of agents are not going to be able to do things for free for veteran clients for a very long time, because it's going to be difficult to do.
Yeah.
It's going to
And
be
yeah, I got
difficult to specify.
highlighted too, just to show
Yeah.
that as well, because I like showing real guideline information, not just like, oh, my lender told me this. Well, what does the VA handbook say? Well, the VA handbook does say um, exactly what Danny is saying.
Yeah.
So
It's unfortunate that this is the scenario, and I think it's the scenario right now. I'm hoping that banks will get smart enough to be able to change that line item, um, and so that we can have veterans who are represented. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't do anything, like I wouldn't help a client out for, like, I wouldn't do anything for free, dude. I've paid half of my commissions, most of my commissions, to help a client just close on a property that they felt was it was their dream home. And I did that and never got a review, never got a thank you, never got anything back. Sometimes I've given to clients without them knowing, so that they can. Well, I mean, it's a line item. It's like, hey, it came out of the commissions, but it's like I didn't tell them that I was going to do
that it
this.
was happening.
Exactly. So like, hey,
Right.
you know what? We'll solve the problem. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. So I'm not saying that I'm the greedy real estate agent. I probably sound like that, and because again, real estate agents are the least trusted profession,
Yeah.
one of the least trusted professions.
I'd vote for you.
But it's a situation where like you literally can't pay me. You can't pay me. So the time that you're going to go take a look at properties, submit an offer, go through escrow, use my services. I have a transaction coordinator, inspectors, general inspectors, termite inspectors, roof, chimney, landscaping, everything in between, all of my assets, all the things that I gathered as an agent. It's not going to be at your disposal. Of course, I'm going to help people out, but it's like it's hard to be able to control all of that without getting compensated. I would have to focus on sellers as much as I can.
Yeah, Richard says, so as a real estate agent, you would want to represent the seller. Is that right? I think you just kind of alluded a little bit to that.
Yeah. Now there can be a. Now I'm hoping that the rule does change. There is going to be a buyer agency agreement that's going to happen between sellers and buyers and agents. But the rule stands where a veteran can't pay for me. And one of the things that the only thing I can come up with to be a solution, because I can't change the law and what it is to do a masterclass video, or maybe even a series of videos teaching veterans on what to look for in a property from A to Z. Like, how do I get pre-approved? How do I trust a lender? How do I trust the listing agents not lying to me? How do I read these contracts? What is it about this contract that I need to understand? Now, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a real estate agent, but these contracts are essentially what I do, so I can only be educating people on what it is that I have experience in. And it'll be difficult to go through every single thing, but that video is going to be coming out in the next few weeks. It has to, because I mean, veterans can't be unrepresented and can't go into a transaction without like a deer in the headlights.
Right. Well, and the other thing that you didn't mention, and I would say that you can't. Like, what's going to happen now is they're going to be able to negotiate that as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where with the listing side. So if I'm from the lender, I'm not a real estate agent, so this has virtually nothing to do with me. Negotiate that into your deal, because if you are also looking at a listing that does not have any type of commission going to your real estate agent, because your real estate agent is their job. They owe you a fiduciary duty. And as you mentioned earlier, Danny, that the listing agent that is working for the seller, because some people look at this as people are going to do dual agency or dual broker agreement, right? And working for the listing agent representing both sides. And I think that's extremely dangerous, because you mentioned earlier that the listing agent's fiduciary duty is to the seller. It's not to you. No. So thinking that it's going to save you money is not the case, because how do they make more money? They make more money by helping their seller get more money, not helping you save money. So, also, go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
But yeah, so if you run across a situation where you see a property that's out there that is not, that they're not offering something to you, or to your agent, because there are things you can do in this situation where you can negotiate that into the deal to where maybe it has a slight increase to the sales price, or maybe you're going to offer whatever they're asking for, but you're also asking that you're going to basically pay my real estate agent, because in the VA guidelines, it does talk about this, and it talks about how much can you offer to a veteran, or how much can the seller offer in terms of seller concessions. and the rule is 4%. That's the technical rule, is 4%, but the number can actually be higher. I've actually seen it be as high as 6%, because it's 4% for seller contributions, not including any rate buy down. So if someone was offering 6% in total, we could use basically 2% of that money to go towards rate buy down. But the other 4% can go towards closing costs and also covering or paying for your real estate agent as well. So I would recommend negotiating that into your deal to help protect you, barring that you're also working with a real estate agent that you trust and is genuinely looking out for your best interest, like Byron is talking about. That's my point. Richard's got a couple ones. He said, if a real estate agent tried to charge me for their service under a VA loan, they could technically get in trouble by real estate commission office in the state. Yeah.
Not possibly. Period. Lose their license.
So, and that I should tell that story. I mean, you were talking about this offline. I'll share the story. I've seen, I was living in Las Vegas at the time, and I saw a real estate agent. We caught a real estate agent who was trying to add into the settlement statement at the end of the transaction, like $1,000 fee to a veteran. And I called the agent because I was trying. I called initially saying, hey, I noticed you added this fee in on VA loans. It's not allowed. That was what I told him, because if they're doing other type of loan like FHA or conventional, that's normal. You know what I mean? So he may not work with enough veterans to know that. And so when I told him that, I said, hey, that's not allowed. He goes, oh, I just always tell title to add it in, and if it gets caught, it gets caught, and they'll delete it. And in my head, I'm like, I want to jump through the phone. Yeah, I wanted to jump through the phone, because he was throwing in $1,000 fee to add on top to that veteran's closing cost just so he can represent him, and he was also making his commission. So it wasn't like he wasn't making any money. He was getting his commission, and he was trying to throw in an additional $1,000 charge to the veteran that we were working with, and I happened to catch it, thank God. And in my head, I started thinking, was there any that we didn't catch? You know, you start almost wondering, you start double or second guessing yourself, and hoping that but thankfully I'd never worked with that person before, and also have not worked with that person ever again.
It's we'll see what happens in the future. I'm hoping that we will be able to find a resolution to this, and the intent is not to say, oh, I want to charge veterans an extreme amount of money. It's more of like, hey, I want to. We have to get compensated. I got to feed my babies. You know, like it has to. Like there needs to be some kind of compensation when it comes down to it. And again, it's not that I don't want to do things that have zero compensation. It's just it's hard to do it with such an intensive job. And we were talking about this last week, where what do you think, like, when it comes down to it, who is more vulnerable during the transaction, the seller or the buyer? It tends to be the buyer. The buyer is the one that needs the more protection, because they probably don't know what they're getting into. They don't know what they don't know. And it becomes a situation where they can get screwed over, where they're putting lipstick on a pig. And me, I have a trained eye, and I can see, like, hey, you know what? That looks fine, but it's going to fall off in a couple days. It's going to fall off after a few months of you earning the property. When it rains, this whole house is going to fall down. Like, having that experience behind it, that's what you're paying me for. You're paying me for my experience, my eye. When you're looking through a property as a buyer, when you're looking through a property, like, oh, we can have dinner here. We can enjoy family time here. This can be a playroom. This can be this. We can put art on the wall here. You're not. You
look for all the pretty stuff, but
you're looking for how you can live your life. You should be thinking about how you can live your life in the property. And my job is like, that's broken. Need that fixed. This needs to be corrected. This needs to be like in a tip-top shape for my client. That's my job as an agent. And with there it goes.
Thumbs up. There you go.
Yeah. And it's sad that buyers are now going to be unrepresented. And this isn't just exclusive to veterans. I will just say that some people definitely they flat out cannot they cannot they can't afford a good agent, because now agents are going to be like, if I'm a 2.5% agent and you can only afford a 1% agent, I'm sorry, there's going to be a lot of those people that are going to happen. I can't service all areas, and it's like, yeah,
You mean
all
you don't want to just like fire up your private jet and fly all over the country and help
yeah,
veterans?
later.
Yeah, yeah, the Romeo
Uh,
Echo private jet. Yeah,
maybe
yeah. It sounds like
we'll expand Romeo Echo to different states and make sure that people are repped.
there you go, there you go. Yeah, and to James's point, it sounds he says it sounds like realtors might stop representing VA loans in a weird way. I think that in some ways could happen. I even had a
Mhm.
veteran. Someone told me this recently. I can't remember who I was talking to specifically, but they said they were talking to a realtor in their area, and the realtor told them now's not the time to buy a house with a VA loan. And they were asking me, is there some truth to that? And I was literally sitting there on the other end of the phone, because we weren't like on FaceTime or Zoom or anything. I'm just looking, scratching my head, like, why is now, I don't get what makes it a bad time at all. And I think what it sounds like is just now's not a time for you to make as much money as you possibly can helping veterans buy a house, is what it sounds like you were trying to say. You just tried to reword that to make it sound a little bit more clever. So yeah, and that's part why I say, like, if you don't have an agent, or you guys hear me talk about this in my videos, you need a VA knowledgeable lender and a VA knowledgeable realtor. I say that a lot. I never just say get a real estate agent. I never say just get a lender. There are some great real estate agents out there that I know that are phenomenal, and they don't do great work with veterans because they don't focus on doing VA loans or helping veterans. They work with luxury property and high balance condos in freaking Hawaii, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with those people. It's just I'm not going to refer a veteran to them. And I know that, right? If I have a person that's buying a property that's looking at a luxury high balance condo in one of those places, sure, maybe I'll connect them with that person because that's what you specialize in. But when you don't call me personally saying, hey, Josh, I want to do a DSCR loan, I'm going to tell you, one, I've never done it. I know a little bit about it, but I'm not in the business of trying to learn to do it right now, because there's two people's time that are going to be wasted here, mine and yours. And the last thing I want to do is waste your time doing something that I don't do every day.
Yeah, and you know what? It becomes a situation like like not every realtor is built the same. But one thing I will say is that, like, when people
It's
ask
like
me,
a
like,
slight
you,
flex moment, built
yeah,
different, no big deal. Yeah.
yeah. Like, people ask, like, oh, do you do like regular people loans? Like, do you do like regular buyers? And the way I word it, the way I like to say it is like, you know what? We chose the hardest loan process, the one that takes a little bit longer, needs a little bit more skill, takes a little bit more finesse, so that everything else is easier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that this is easy for me. It's been experience, it's been systems, it's been processes, it's been implementing the excellence and professionalism that the military gave us to be able to do this very, very efficiently. Because, hey, as a Marine, you have all of the supporting MOSs to help support the one MOS that matters most, which is the infantry. Hands down, everyone else is to support the infantry. And I'm not infantry, by the way. So, like, when it comes down to it, it's like all of our systems that we have in place, all the support that we have in place is to support the client. And that's how we structured ourselves. Again, with
That's
the thumbs
thumbs
up.
up again.